And a big warm welcome to you people. My name is Nick and it's time once again for the 2-week roundup. We go to a different country for each time of these, and this time we're in, well, it's China, isn't it? Do you know about China? This definitely isn't a green screen or anything. We're definitely in China. China has got a rather large population, 1.3 billion I think is a rough estimate, although I haven't counted any of them or anything, so that goes on trust. The capital is Beijing and the largest city in China is Shanghai. And yep, you probably recognise this landmark behind me. It's the Great Wall of China, which runs well, east to west across the northern part of the borders. Did I get that right? Maybe. It's quite long, 21,000 kilometres, or about 13,000 miles, I believe. So if you used to walk the Great Wall of China, you'd probably be late for work, I suppose, and in the wrong country.
Glad you could join us in time for our live match, which today is between China and Sheffield Wednesday. Our match commentators for today are Chris Waddle and John Motson.
Good to see a few young faces in this huge crowd here today. A few potential players among them, no doubt, Chris.
Great atmosphere, as you say, John. Glad to be here to see this one myself.
And it's night time all of a sudden, but don't question it too much or the whole premise of this entire channel will probably fall apart. Before we come to the top 6 gaming videos we looked at this week, we'll glance back at the wonderful Pinball arcade tables there. The first one we looked at was Diner. Now this is set in a 50s style American diner, and it's quite a nice idea. It reminds me a lot of the table Taxi, if you looked at that, which we reviewed quite a long time ago. But essentially, by hitting the ball in the right places, you must serve, I think, 5 or 6 diners, get their orders ready, and get it to them before they actually get bored. Now, there is one particular woman in this diner, whose name I can't remember, and she's very, very impatient and just says she hasn't got all day. Well, I'll probably put polonium in her burger and she's probably not alive at the moment. But a nice fun table, so check that one out. A Diner, I love these digital recreations by Farsight Studios. Come out in 2014 and a part of season 3. Also as well, we have reviewed the very last table of season 3, which is Bram Stoker's Count Dracula. And this table is pretty evil, not only in theme, but wildly difficult. Based on Bram Stoker's character, Count Dracula from Transylvania. He wants to drink your blood. Lots of different modes in this, but cool, yeah. It's quite a dark table. Takes a little bit of getting used to, and I struggled with it, but only because I haven't played it for much. But if you got used to it, I'd have to say it would be pretty cool. Now this is when vampires were vampires. They were cool old school ones, not like these young teeny boppers from Twilight, which ruined their entire reputation. This was the last one in season 3, and I've already downloaded season 4 of the Pinball Arcade, and there are some crackers there which we'll come to. Most notably, quite near the end of the series, is the Addams Family. So I really look forward to playing that one. Now you might have noticed, I don't know how we're fitting it in the time, but at the moment each week we've started a new blundering series, a race blundering series, and it's Formula 1 2010. So far I've competed in Bahrain, driving for McLaren, haven't done too badly so far, and Australia. So if you like that series, you want it to continue, please comment on the videos. You don't have to watch all of them if you don't want to. The main ones are pretty much the race, qualifying if you want to see that as well, and if you're really into the series, you can watch my practice times. Now normally I would have just not uploaded these, but it's a bit of fun getting used to the tracks first of all, so if you want the whole experience, then watch practice, qualifying and the race. Thank you all.
Gets a touch and it's in the back of the net. Not the classiest of goals, but they all count.
That's a scrappy goal, but it's in the back of the net all the same.
So the deadlock broken then, 1-0 the score.
Now we're talking. You must have heard of these dudes. It's the famous Terracotta Army. They're armies of the Emperor Qin Shi Huang, if I pronounce that right. Probably not. It existed between 2010 or 209 BC. And this is a major complex, so the terracotta army are only a little bit of it. We're in a tomb the size of a football pitch, because they always measure tombs in relation to football pitches, of course. It consists of 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots, 520 horses, now I don't know why they separated this, and 150 cavalry horses, but if they come to life now, I'd probably be a bit in trouble. But terracotta, it smashes quite easily, doesn't it? So I don't know how good a terracotta army would be. But the idea being it was supposed to protect the emperor in the afterlife. I don't know what bad can happen to you in the afterlife, because you're already dead. But yes, so more importantly than this emperor from thousands of years ago, let's have a look at the top 6, starting from number 6. So I put in 6th place this time, a game worthy of 6th place. On the Commodore Amiga, it's Steve Davis's World Snooker by CDS Software in 1989. Now this is a reworking of Steve Davis Snooker on the ZX Spectrum, which was quite a good game. It wasn't super stunning, but it was very, very clever the way they coded it. So I expected on the Amiga it'd be a lot better. I was wrong. It's worse. It's a terrible game. What makes it bad is, when you line up the balls on the Spectrum one, you only get a small line that doesn't go all the way along the table, so you've got to try and guess the angle. Well, the Spectrum one had it just about right. You can go the whole length of the table and do shots. So what happens is it's very imprecise and leads to a very frustrating experience that you don't want to go back to. If you compare it to other snooker games or pool games that come out later on the Amiga, Arcade Pool and most notably Jim and White Snooker, it actually wipes the floor with this. If this was a free game, I still would not play it, which is a shame for Steve Davis, because it should have been a lot better. It gives you a variety of modes, of course, though. It gives you pool, which I didn't try on the review, and also the main snooker. There are different modes of play from beginner to playing Steve Davis himself, but I would avoid this one like the plague. If you now, very rarely it happens that there's a reworking of a game from a Spectrum, and then on the Amiga you expect it to be a little bit better, if it's like graphically or something. I suppose it is marginally better graphically, but it plays awful. And what's the best video games is the playability, and that's what makes retro great. Well, if retro is based just on Steve Davis's World Snooker, it wouldn't be great at all. Now in 5th place, it didn't have much to beat, arguably, is Renegade 3, the final chapter on the ZX Spectrum by Imagine, again in 1989. In other weeks this might have come in 6th place, but Steve Davis rescued it. Now I've been reviewing the Renegade series for the last few weeks. Renegade 1 was a good game, just called Renegade. Target Renegade was looked at a lot of people by a classic and expanded on that. It's like a 2D fighter. And then they thought of Renegade 3, the final chapter, where they tried to take it in a different direction, but one would say it didn't really work very well. This time, instead of fighting street gangs, you've gone back in time and fighting dinosaurs on level 1. Why? And cavemen? I don't know why. To try and rescue your girlfriend who's been kidnapped and held in a different time zone. So you've got where this game is going, haven't you? There's dinosaur age, Egyptian, medieval, the future. Don't bother. Collision detection is marginal. The first level is by far the best, which isn't very good, and that's got the most going on, and it gets progressively worse. What majorly lets this one down is, on a couple of particular levels, it's white characters on a more or less white background. So actually seeing stuff is not good, it does your eyes in, and in the end it's not a very fun game. This one was the 128K I reviewed, but avoid Renegade 3, the final chapter as well. In 4th place, another reworking of a Spectrum game. The Spectrum game was 180, a darts game. This one is World Darts by Mastertronic in 1988. Again, not a brilliant game, only because the computer AI is way too difficult. Even on one of the easiest modes, a player I was playing against got 5 treble 20s in a row. They very rarely miss the doubles to finish. And also the control system is a little bit awkward, takes a bit of getting used to, but you're certainly not going to hit treble 20s every game, unless you're some sort of mega genius. So yeah, it could have been a good game, the speech could have been a bit better, but it's just so unfair, as a playable game, really. So the bottom three are worthy bottom three ones this time. They really wasn't cutting the mustard. So in 6th place was Steve Davis World Snooker on the Commodore Amiga by CDS Software. 5th place, Renegade 3, the final chapter by Imagine, and that was on the Spectrum, that one, Spectrum 128K. And in 4th place was World Darts, again on the Commodore Amiga by Mastertronic.
Enhua. Good passing there. He had all the time in the world, it seemed, and took full advantage. What a good finish.
He'll be pleased with that.
So, after all that frustrating terracotta army business, I thought we'll come to somewhere a bit more serenic. Is that a word? Scenic? Something like that. Picturesque, let's go with that one. And it's Qingdao Lake. It's a reservoir, again in China, and sometimes called the Thousand Island Lake. I feel that's the direct translation. It's a man-made reservoir and it has, well, thousands of islands in it, small and big, which include things like Bird Island, Snake Island, Monkey Island. I don't know if they renamed that after the computer game. Probably not. Lock Island, there's lots. And just to get a measure of how big this place is, it's 573 square kilometres. So much bigger than your back garden, I would have thought. The maximum depth in here is 120 metres. Yeah, so there could be some sort of Loch Ness monster thing in there floating around. So, more importantly then, what is the top 3 games this week? We've seen 4, 5 and 6. Let's see 3, 2 and 1. Not the game show. So in 3rd place on the ZX Spectrum, Advanced Pinball Simulator by Codemasters in 1988. Fairly basic in premise. It's not really realistic ball physics, but you wouldn't expect that from a 48K Spectrum game. But it is quite relaxing. The ball does go a bit invisible when it crosses a bit of the playfield, which is a haunted house or a castle, and you can't see it, but I'll forgive it for that. It's quite good fun. The music, well, of what there is, the sound effects I should say, is quite hypnotic. And when I'm playing this I do feel quite relaxed. There's a few letters to spell out by hitting the ball down certain passages and passageways, and there is a bit to it. There is only one table, which is a bit unfortunate, but you know, it's a bit of retro classic history, and when I play it I do feel like I'm going back in time, which is always the best thing. Good work by Codemasters in 1988, so still finding out a bit more about them in the Spectrum days. Before I didn't know they had too much of a presence, but it turns out they produced quite a few games. And in 2nd place, which is also the game you've been seeing as the instrumental bits between each bit of these videos, the Great China versus Sheffield Wednesday. They hate each other. Anyway, 2nd place this time was FIFA 99 by Electronic Arts in 1998. Now, I really like this game. The modern day FIFA games are a bit too complicated for me, maybe because I'm getting a bit old. And when I had to choose a football game, I'd look at Kickoff 2 or Goal. I'm still waiting for Kickoff Revival, see how that plays, but that might be my number 1. But FIFA 99 is pretty good fun. You can control many teams internationally and so forth, different skill sets. And, you know, as a football game, it's quite good. The commentary is quite funny by John Motson and Chris Waddle. I think Trevor Brooking might be in there occasionally, and Gary Lineker. It's a classic game. The ones after this I sort of like drifted away really, as I say. It's a fairly easy learning curve. In the review I had to turn the music off because it's got a thumping soundtrack from bands like Blur and numerous others of the day. If I had the music going on, it'd get hit by a copyright strike straight away. So if you can get any retro FIFA games, I would recommend FIFA 99. It's the one with Dennis Bergkamp on the front cover. So what does that leave in 1st place? It's on the Game Boy Advance, and a game I was really impressed by. It originally came out on the GameCube, which I didn't own, but I've subsequently been told the conversion isn't too dissimilar in the levels and so forth. It was Super Monkey Ball Jr. on the Game Boy Advance, and that was by THQ in 2002. Just checking that, yeah, 2002, yes. Brilliant stuff. Apparently they do bottled water from this place as well. Did I go off on a tangent? Yeah, Super Monkey Ball Jr. Basically it's a marble game, but to make it more exciting there's a monkey trapped in the marble. Progressively more difficult levels, which are suspended in the sky. By doing the controls, you lean the well, the map or the level there to control your marble without falling off the edge. Collect as many bananas as you can, then guide the marble through the finish line before you run out of time. So it's quite a simple premise, but it controls really well. Quite often on the Game Boy Advance, because if it's small screen and blown up bigger, it gets a bit pixelated, especially with some of the driving games. But in this, it's gone for a simple, polygon sort of feel, and yeah, it holds together great. It controls well. You get a choice of 4 monkeys, although I think that's by the by, because I think they all control rather similar. But if you've got a favourite one, at least it makes it feel like you're getting somewhere. In the modern day, you probably have to buy a DLC to have another 10 extra monkeys do the same thing, and you get actually physically conned. Really good game. If I was going to put my top 10 Game Boy Advance games together, this may very well come in the top 10. So in summary then, in third place was Advanced Pinball Simulator on the ZX Spectrum by Codemasters. In second place, FIFA 99, that was on the PlayStation 1, if you hadn't already guessed, by Electronic Arts in 1998. And the winner this time is the latest of all the games. Doesn't always happen that way, but it's happened this time. Super Monkey Ball Jr. on the Game Boy Advance by THQ in 2002.
And that will cost him dearly. A blatant foul and the referee showing the red card. So 3-0 then at the final whistle, and a good contest for the paying spectators here today.
Well, that's about it, everyone, as the mighty China defeat Sheffield Wednesday, although they were down to 10 men at the end. How often have we seen that story? Well, never. Thanks for watching the games as usual. Is that a thing to say? Yes. Well, thank you for watching. That's what I'm trying to get at. I do love reading your comments, that I always say. We're trying to keep the channel working well. In the midweek, I was late home from work. I got a little bit behind, but hopefully you didn't notice. So, yep, I'd like to see you again. Until next time, take care and goodbye.
Goodbye.